Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to Professional Oklahoma Educators Bite-Sized Learning Podcast, where bite-sized changes can have a big impact in the classroom. This is Season 2, Episode 1. I'm Jason Bings, the host of this podcast. This episode is breaking from what we've been posting over the last several weeks because for today's episode, I'm going to share a little bit of a testimonial. Over 20 years ago, I joined the Association of Professional Oklahoma Educators as I started my student teaching. At the time I joined, student teachers had to pay a very minimal amount to become a member and receive the same protections as other members. What appealed to me most was the legal liability protection that was twice that of other organizations. I've always been fairly comfortable with math, so the fact that I could have twice the coverage for such a low price was very appealing. Beyond that, I knew little about the organization at the time. My first year, I was able to find a part-time position, and the district I was teaching in allowed the use of a discount legal service provider. I didn't know exactly what I was buying into at the time, and I didn't hear much about any other options, and so that was what I went with my first full year in the classroom. The next year, I stepped into a full-time position in another district, and shortly after rejoined the Professional Oklahoma Educators. Between the time of my student teaching and joining POE as a full-time teacher, I understood even more the need for the legal protection offered, but my knowledge of the other services and practices espoused by POE also played into my decision. I firmly believe that professionals need to belong to professional organizations. These organizations should represent the values of their members. No matter what profession you're in, you should be a part of an organization that represents that career path. This is critical for growth, for professional learning, and for professional liability. That belief is what inspired me to join as a full-time teacher. I began researching the various options, and one of the options that was being promoted locally was an organization that had local, state, and national affiliates. But I couldn't join one without joining all three. And so if I wanted to be a part of the local group, I also had to be a part of the state and national group. In order for me to be able to justify that internally, I had to be in agreement with the platforms being supported by each of those groups. I couldn't separate one from the other because my dues were contributing to each of those groups and ideologies. Fortunately for me, the national organization didn't hide what they were giving their money to because at various events, you could plainly see their signs on the news coverage of those events. This publicity made it clear what I had already suspected from my research and further confirmed my conviction that I could not be a part of the national organization in good conscience. This didn't take into account the state organization, but the practices promoted by the state group also made it clear to me that I should not be a part of them, even if I could separate them from the national organization. I did like the people that were part of the local group, and at first I thought I could be a part of that group if I didn't have to join the others. But remember, you join one, you join all three. So this was a no-go on this one. Aside from the conflict in ideologies being promoted, I've never been the type of person that blindly supports a politician because someone else told me I should. I've never been the type of person that votes straight down party lines. I don't think anyone should be like that. I believe there are extremists in all parties and others that are more moderate that can weigh both sides of an issue and make decisions that are best for the state and nation. Because I want to make decisions for myself and not be told who I should vote for, I struggled with the concept of being told who I should vote for and what I needed to call my representative and tell them. I also struggled with how the different levels of the organization reacted to the leaders in education, many of whom were former members. I could support the original intent of the organization, which was to provide support for educators, but the methods used to carry that out and the other issues that were being supported that have absolutely nothing to do with education ultimately pushed me away from joining. It was at this time that I remembered the organization I'd joined while student teaching, so I began checking to see if there was a local chapter, and there wasn't. In fact, I struggled to find any local members. but I remembered the basics of what professional Oklahoma educators offered. The first was that they were professional. I remembered they were a professional organization for teachers, and this was one of the first criteria that was on my list. Remember, I said I believe that every teacher needs to be a part of a professional organization for growth. Another thing they provided was protection. Professional Oklahoma educators offered legal liability protection for teachers, and so that was another item that was high on my list. After my first year in the classroom, I realized how many decisions teachers make every day and how easily something could go wrong even when you make the right decision. They were also affordable. The dues were much cheaper than the other organizations, and they were offering twice the legal protection. And so again, going back to what I said earlier about being able to do a little basic math, this part was a no-brainer for me. The next thing that I liked was that they offered me a voice. Professional Oklahoma educators wanted my opinion on issues, not the other way around. I liked the fact that they survey members to determine what education issues they should support instead of telling members what to support. Another item that I really liked was the cooperation. Professional Oklahoma educators strives to work with leaders. They work together with leaders to effect lasting change for educators and students, and they do so by sharing facts and through collaboration. Throughout my career, I've witnessed the exact opposite coming from other groups. In fact, I've witnessed and been subject to animosity, scapegoating, and fear-mongering promoted by other groups. Vilifying others to promote your agenda was never something I could support. Professional Oklahoma educators also offered choice. I could join a local chapter if one existed without joining the state organization or a national organization. Not only that, but I would also be provided facts on other issues so I can make an informed choice on each of those topics. Another great thing about professional Oklahoma educators that I saw very early on was their support for all educators. They offered membership to all types of education professionals. It doesn't matter if you're a paraprofessional, an administrative assistant, a bus driver, classroom teacher, counselor, school nurse, or an administrator. POE supports you. POE is not just an organization for teachers, it's an organization for all involved in providing education services to students. So these are just a few of the reasons why I joined Professional Oklahoma Educators, and why I have remained a member for nearly 20 years. Over the next few weeks, I will be returning to the classroom, and I'll continue to be a member of Professional Oklahoma Educators. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it and comment to let us know how we can continue to help you and others. You can leave your comments on your podcatcher of choice, but if you want to make sure we get those in a timely manner, go to bit.ly/bitesizedpod and complete the form you find there. If you would like to schedule a professional learning session for your school or an online meeting, you can send an email to pl@apoe.org. If you'd like more information about Professional Oklahoma Educators, check out the website, www.apoe.org. You can find links to this podcast and blog under the Resources tab on the website, or you can go to poebitesizedlearning.blogspot.com. POE can also be found on Facebook and on Twitter.